Greetings, welcome back. EXUK here with another vid. This is a topic that thankfully I haven't had an awful lot of trouble with in my 30 odd years of role playing. And it's all come to mind due to something that I saw on the internet a couple of hours ago. And basically, it's the idea that players have a hard time, some players, rephrase that, have a hard time trying to get involved in the plot of a campaign. Whether that's how you get everybody together, how you get everybody motivated, or any number of problems like that. Now, the few times that I've ever experienced this myself, it's generally the players they don't want to get involved in the story. It's generally not how you start a campaign, but once you get a little ways in, they kind of find their own footing. And it may be that they decide that, quite frankly, they would rather go raid that dungeon out in the woods to get that much needed treasure that they want, rather than help the village stave off the raids of bandits or bugbears or what have you. Or they decide partway through the campaign they don't actually give a monkeys about Count Bertrand's evil brother, Count Dunderhead, trying to usurp him and take over the throne. They're not interested in the politics and they don't really care. They think there's something more important that needs to be dealt with and what have you. Now, thankfully, I've not had this problem. My players are really good. And I generally, if I have new players, I generally explain early on that the whole point of a role-playing game is to tell the story. If you followed my channel for any length of time, you'll probably know that I am a big fan of the Adventure Path format, what some people might consider railroaded. The idea that you have, for sake of argument, a published campaign that goes from chapter A to chapter B to chapter C to chapter D and on. And it follows a progressive story. There are players that dislike this because they feel that they have no agency. They are just along for the ride. I disagree. When you turn up to a role-playing session, your unwritten agreement, shall we say, is to tell the story. You're there because you want to partake of it. You want to be the hero of said story. And sometimes I think it's difficult for some players to kind of get out of that. They want to do their own thing. And I don't have that as a problem. I mean, I'm quite happy to do like little side quests in a campaign for players if they've come up with something they want to do and it doesn't necessarily impact the story. Or sometimes it's not going to impact it so much you can't work around it. But I think players need to understand in general that the GM has either purchased and read or created themselves, either way prepared a campaign, a story. And it's for the players, not having good words today, as you can probably tell, but it behooves, is that the right word? Behooves the players to actually partake of the story and follow the plot and become one with the plot. Not to the point that they can't make their own decisions and they can't go off book here and there. But the story, the campaign, the adventure, regardless of how you want to look at it, exists for that reason. The GM is running this story, they control the world, they control everything else. The players get the control of their characters, I should say, not the players. But it's their job as it were, to grab that story by the horns and run with it. So I find it kind of odd that there are players who would try and, I'm going to say, derail an adventure or campaign, derail the scenario. Derail is not quite the right word, because I think if you were trying to actively screw over a game, you're not going to be in that group very long. But there are players who maybe they're confined by that direct AP style plot element of chapter A leads to chapter B to chapter C to chapter D. But if you're going to play a campaign, then you need to play an appropriate character with appropriate outlooks, and are going to actually partake of the story. Because otherwise you're wasting everybody's time. Yours, the GMs, the other players. As I say, thankfully, I haven't really had this, only maybe 2 or 3 times during my gaming career. And in each instance, it was easy enough to sort of drag everybody back together again. I can't really think of any details. I just know that it has happened. But I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on it? Are you happy for players to go off book, even though maybe you've purchased, like a $30 campaign pre-written book or box set, and they decide, well, screw this, we're going to go do our own thing? Or you've spent weeks, months writing a campaign only for the players to basically go, well, actually, we don't care, or what have you. I'd be interested in your thoughts on this particular topic, whether you are a player or a GM. So, any comments, any thoughts, just drop them in the little thingy down below. That's my finger. Arg. And we'll see if we can't get a discussion going. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I know it's only a little sort of brief train of consciousness post today, but thanks for watching. I look forward to your comments. Take care, guys, and good gaming.